I remember vividly. I think it was about a span of a few months, right? Where we went without electricity, without running water in the house. I would hop the fence of the abandoned house next door only to get from a standing pipe some water so I could flush the toilet, so I could wash my face.
And
Whatever I needed it for, right?
And please tell me this was like at least in December.
Oh, I wish.
Or like the winter days, at least you didn't have to crank the air.
No, it was worse. It's South Florida. It's the end of the summer, beginning of the school year, right? And it's super hot. Open all the windows up and hope you catch a breeze.
That's not it.
I remember running home from the bus stop at the end of a school day and running home because I had to get there before the sun went down so that I could do my homework. There was no lights. We're all inspired by our human connection that arises when we share food with others. So what's on your heart becomes a hub for truly heartfelt conversation.
Tertulia, as they say in Spanish, fostering genuine bonds between individuals, creating that sense of community and connection.
I'm Paul Jacobs, your podcast co-host, ready to inspire you by conversations that nourish the soul as we go beyond the plate.
I'm Daniel Patiño, welcoming you to join us for some truly inspiring tertulia. Get ready to satisfy that craving for connection and inspiration as we dive into topics that not only broaden your perspective, but also deepen your understanding of lives of families in Latin America, the Caribbean, or even in your own backyard. So wherever our conversations take us, come along for the ride and let's go beyond the plate together.
I feel like we're skipping school right now.
We're not skipping school.
But I feel like
Did you ever actually skip school? Because this is not what skipping school feels like.
I didn't.
You didn't? Oh,
No.
Look at you.
I never skipped school.
Top honors, Mr. Jacobs.
Never skipped school. Like, okay, Danny had a car.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy Stan had a car. I had a buddy named Don for like 1 year. He had this cool Beetle Bug with this bass and doom, 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 doom.
It was a bass with wheels, right? It was a bass.
It's a big
Bass
speaker with wheels
on,
and a steering wheel. Never skipped school.
Wow.
No, seriously, I was too afraid of my dad.
Okay. Thank you. We got to the gold real quick. 'Cause I was like, oh, maybe he's an honor student. Maybe he wants to set an example. No, you're just a fear of the wrath of your dad, right?
I wasn't on. Okay, so there you hit a nerve now.
Mm-hmm.
I was an honor student. Yes, graduated top 10% of my class. Excuse me while I dust off my shoulder.
Let me go ahead and pat your back because I'm not gonna have enough to tap mine.
You want to go back up to my office and grab my gold cord?
Sheesh.
Okay,
Wow.
but then there was that. I didn't want to do the makeup work, right? And I didn't want to get caught by Dad. A phone call coming to the house.
Ooh.
Paul Jacobs missed school today. Like,
Come pick him up at the office because you're caught.
oh, no,
This is I can see that happening. I can see you.
You skipped school?
I skipped school, but it was a little different. At this point in time, academically, I was set.
Wait,
So
stop. The statute of limitations are over, so let's tell the whole story. Let everybody know.
If my parents are listening, I'll still get grounded. No, I would skip school, but it would be towards the end of the year where my grades are already set.
Yeah.
I can take a C or a D or an F and still it wouldn't affect my GPA to the point where, I was having to repeat courses or anything. So I would just skip school. And I had a buddy of mine who graduated a year earlier. Yeah. So it would be a quick little text. Hey, what's up, man? We already took roll call whenever you're ready. And he'd appear in the parking lot. I just jump in. We were already cool with the security guards.
Jeez.
So, Danny, the security guard, would let us by. It'd be a little cool thing. Sometimes we would buy him lunch. So we already had it in with the security. What a great security guard, isn't he, huh? Guarding everything but the kids that are inside.
You'd buy the security guard lunch who let you pass skipping school.
Yeah. And it didn't necessarily have to be that day. We'd just buy him random lunch every day. So I already had some credit in the pocket. And we would we would just skip school to a friend's house.
Okay.
And we just hang out there all day. Their parents weren't home. My folks, didn't really work near the school or anywhere near that, so I wouldn't be bumping into anybody.
What?
I might have been seen by somebody or a friend of the family or anything, but to this point, I haven't heard anything about it. To this point, my parents don't know. But yeah, great. Let's go ahead and just put it on Beyond the Plate here. Inspiring conversations that nourish the soul and tell my parents I skipped school in high school.
Oh my
This is really going beyond the plate.
Okay, so like we are here talking in this episode about education and the discovery from education, but not the traditional education, right? Not the traditional education that we're used to hearing here at Food for the Poor, but an education from a very different perspective. And we're calling this episode "Who's Your Teacher?"
Who's your teacher?
Right. So who's your teacher?
Who's
So
your teacher?
I got a list. You ready? I got
All
a
right.
list.
Yo, you got a list?
I have a list of famous who's.
You usually share a list with me, but this time, okay, go ahead. Shoot.
No, let's
Go
see
ahead.
if you know these
All
who's.
right.
Okay, you ready? First who? Famous who? Famous who?
Famous who's, okay.
Who's the boss?
The show with Tony Danza.
Tony
Hey, I'm
Danza
Tony Danza.
over here, right?
That's
That was a great
right,
show. A single dad takes a job as a nanny for a single high-functioning executive mom who's a single mom herself, and he's the cleaner, he's the cook, he's everything, and he's Tony.
And
right?
this is in the 80s. It's a sitcom in the 80s
Oh, it's
where
a great
usually
show.
the roles were reversed, right? It was expected that a woman should be at home doing all these ridiculous things while a man is supposed to go to work. Oh, yeah, okay.
Right. And Tony was a pretty macho guy. He played
Yeah.
sports, right? I mean, he was a
Baseball. He was a baseball player, and he
Former
just
baseball
former player, and he had to become a single dad nanny.
So you remember the show?
I remember the show, of course. I caught it towards the end. I think it ended like in 92, 93. And then after that, syndication and repeats and,
Yeah.
you name it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Next
Another-
on your list.
Famous who?
Oh, it's a list of one thing. Famous who's.
Another
Moving on.
famous. Yeah, let me do the if you're watching on YouTube, the proper hand gestures for instead
It's
of
a loose
no,
leaf.
no.
I have a loose leaf.
Loose
A loose leaf
gesture.
list.
All right, you ready?
All right, what's else?
Doctor Who.
Very famous Doctor Who.
For those of famous television show across the pond,
Mm-hmm.
the British sci-fi series. I remember as a kid because I didn't
BritBox.
realize there's so many different Doctor
There
Who's.
is.
It's like
And
all these
still
different James
going on.
Bonds.
It's still
right?
going on. It's still going on.
Really?
There's a new one just on right now on Disney Plus, and it's still going.
What was that famous like that telephone booth that they traveled in? It was like this
It's
old.
the ones you see on the streets of London.
The
The red one.
They had
the
a
red,
name for it. What was the name?
TARDIS was the.
TARDIS.
That's the thing. That was your nickname or my nickname in high
Oh,
school.
that's good. I gotta
Yes,
remember that.
the photo booths you see, the phone booths you see on the streets of London, red. And,
Yeah, sure.
but in the show, I'm pretty sure if you haven't seen it, you can go ahead and YouTube it after you've already finished this episode.
Yep.
It was they would go travel through time trying to fix certain situations. But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it's a time traveling show, which is always its unique
Interesting.
story.
Okay. All right. I gotta
So
check
we
it out.
got Who's the Boss, Doctor Who,
Doctor Who. All right. Here's another
which
one.
is on our list of stuff to watch.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? Have you ever heard of that? The movie? It's a
No,
film.
I have not.
Classic film.
I have not.
Classic film that broke barriers in the 60s, right?
Oh.
Almost banned in theaters. Sidney Poitier, Katharine Hepburn, Spencer Tracy, about a young lady who brings home her fiance, who is a medical doctor,
Who is
who
played
would
by
want their daughter to
Sidney
marry a medical
Poitier?
doctor, played by Sidney
I know where
Poitier.
you're going with this
Yes.
now. Okay.
Literally renewed minds and just completely broke barriers in the
Wow.
mid 60s. Powerful.
Not
film.
really accepted in that time, but you play that nowadays, and
Right.
it's
Right. And Sidney
That's
Poitier
normal.
was at the top of his game as an actor. So, it was
well,
just,
no, the people you just
Right.
named aren't just B list.
exactly.
They were swinging for the fences. They knew if we need to really relate this message, we need stars.
Right. Exactly. Another famous Who.
Another
All
famous Who. All
ready
right.
for another one?
Okay, so who's the boss? Doctor
Okay.
Who. Guess who's coming to dinner?
I got a good one.
There's
I
more
got
who's?
another classic.
All right.
Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Oh,
Why'd you do that?
you gave me PTSD.
Why?
We watched it in school. We watched it in school.
really?
It was this whole thing where we had to make a project about it. We saw it in class. I love when we used to watch movies in class because they shut down the lights.
When you weren't skipping.
I wouldn't skip that day. Are we watching a movie today? Oh, sure. Okay, fine. I'll stay. And everybody, it was kind of almost like a half a hangout day, half chill day,
Right.
Until the teacher would surprise you with, okay, surprise quiz. We're like, great. And I remember watching the first few minutes of it and going, ooh, that's Elizabeth Taylor. Why do I know Elizabeth Taylor?
Yeah.
Well, let's see why. And then her co-star, I didn't recognize.
Richard Burton. Come on.
Is that Tim Burton's brother? Okay, by your laughter, I guess not it. Never mind. Any more who's?
All right. Yes. More Who's. All right. I
watch that
know
next.
you're going to love this one. You're a music guy.
Okay.
You ready? Who let the dogs out? Who?
Of course.
The Baha Men. Who let the dogs out?
That's the most famous Who.
Oh, yeah.
That's gotta be.
Commercials.
Fight me on that one because
like sports, everything. I think they even like they would play it for certain teams, right? At some point, right?
It's still
I
do? Still hear it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's on the repertoire of, the conga line, the Macarena, the twist, and Who Let the Dogs Out. I rush to the dance floor every time I hear Who Let the Dogs Out.
All right, one more music. Who. You ready?
All right.
Simply The Who.
Okay, good. I thought you were going to skip that one on the list.
We're back across the pond. British rock band, legendary.
Of course.
Songs like Bob O'Reilly, My Generation.
My Generation. Of course, yeah.
And then, of course, Who Won't Get Fooled Again. Great song.
And My Generation, I still hear it.
Yeah.
It's still being played. I've seen it for commercials. I think Apple.
Yes.
Apple might have used it.
Yeah.
In one of their campaigns.
Right.
That little company, Apple. Just in case. So,
yeah. And then, of course,
Who's.
one of my favorite and probably still to this day, one of the greatest Who's in history is the parable that Jesus taught. Who is my neighbor? He still teaches this to us as a parable, as a lesson to this day about unexpected places and people that are some of the greatest lessons on relationship and mindsets.
Is this Love My Neighbor? Is this kind of the same realm?
Yeah, I mean, you
love my neighbor because they can be a teacher as well, right?
Well, okay. So the Samaritan was a hated people group to the Jews in Jesus' time, and so he's telling a parable of a fellow Jew who's beaten and left on the side of the road, and who comes to the help, who becomes the neighbor to this person, the Samaritan, and he calls him the Good Samaritan. Right. So, yeah, who's my neighbor? Love your neighbor. You can make that correlation. It's there, you know. But in this episode, we want to focus more on themes of education and discovery, and hence the title, Who's Your Teacher?
Who's your teacher? Who's your teacher?
Yeah, exactly. Teachers come from all walks of life, right? Teachers can be the school of hard knocks.
Those are great, aren't it?
It's great when you learn the lesson.
Hard knocks for me was don't try to jump a ramp with your mountain bike when the ramp's like about 2 inches high. Trust me. It was a hard knock on my knee when I finally already scraped all the gravel off of it and finally realized, okay, it's still there. Let's keep going. That's a hard knock. But definitely hard knock.
All right. How about another teacher can come in the form of difficult situations? Those difficult situations and circumstances in our lives that become those teachable moments that come back around and say, I'm better for going through what I went through. Those teachable moments, right?
Okay.
Past relationships. No.
Yeah, not everybody learns. I laugh because not everybody learns from those.
Right. And it doesn't have to be a bad dating situation or, it could be.
Sometimes. Well, sometimes. My past relationship taught me to lock my doors.
Okay.
And tell the guard at the front gate, do not let her in. And here's your sandwich.
Here's same that security guard from my school. He's now working at your apartment.
I was like, here's your sandwich with the Coke yogurt. And don't let this person in, please.
It could be a boss. It could be a total stranger.
Yeah.
I had a boss once. I'll be honest with you. One of the toughest bosses I ever had in my life. And when I was working in the catering business, I'm young, and he was tough. I mean, he was a massive man, big brooding guy, and he could be tough. But I learned
the only micro thing on him was his managing. Like that. He was a big guy, but the only micro thing was he's always over my shoulder.
You don't know him, but I'm telling you, you hit the nail on the head. But again, he taught me valuable lessons. He was my teacher all those years ago. And so those were just amazing things that can basically be our teacher, right?
Yeah. Mine came in a different form. Micro. We'll stay on the micro tip.
Yeah.
My daughters. My first daughter.
Sure.
And my second daughter, both separate teachers.
Right.
When I first became a dad, it was early lessons, a lot of early lessons. One of them right now would be mindful of what you say.
Oh, yeah.
Because, man, kids are little sponges.
Yep.
Kids are little sponges.
What do they say? More is caught than taught.
Oh, Oh,
Right?
hold on.
Write that
Wow.
down. Right?
I
didn't
this
originally.
week has been you in gold. The other day you hit like 3 eyes in the middle of a meeting, and I was like, "This man, I'm gonna patent that before I'm gonna trade that mark before he does." Yeah, mind what I say. Because I mean, it's even to the point where if I would have expressed myself a little different, I think the idea might have come across a lot different than I intended. So it's like yelling versus telling. Like I when I grew up, a lot of it was my mom really just yelling to do this, to do that. She was still telling me to go do something,
Right.
Go clean your bathroom, take care of your clothes, take care of your stuff.
Yeah.
But she would just yell about it. Versus nowadays, I'm telling my daughter, hey, your room will look a lot cleaner if this would happen. Let me help you out. Do you need help? So the line of communication opens up. Because, man, before I had kids, I was living that single life. Even though I proposed to my wife by this time, we were both living that single life. It wasn't like, oh, we have to go make dinner. No, we would skip dinner and go, oh, we never ate. I had a pizza earlier. What'd you have? I had a sandwich. We'll eat tomorrow.
Right.
Did you shower today? No, I didn't shower. No, I didn't have time for that. Forget it. Let's just keep going. We weren't stinky people, but it was one of those things that you just don't pay attention to. Sure. So now with a kid, okay, well, dinner's got to be done at a certain time. We have to bathe today, kid. We can't just go on, being the stinky family. So we don't want to be the stinky kids in class. And you just have to shift a lot of your life to accommodate a new person. This little person looks up to you, and some parents, I would say some parents at their household run a tight ship. I want to say in my house, we run a pirate ship.
Pirate ship. Okay. Explain, please.
There might be some strong language sometimes.
Explain, please.
Okay. Shimber me timbers is said a lot. There might be some swashbuckling once in a while.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, there might be a little bit of mutiny from my little ones. I would be surprised if they don't try to overthrow my wife and I once in a while. But that's our mindset, and we try to be as flexible as possible, man, because flexibility is another one that I was taught. Because, man, kids are not on any routine.
Right.
Naps can be out of whack. We've tried routines through the first months, and it's just not happening. The sleepless nights, man.
Okay, wait. So you got 2 daughters. Was your second daughter easy street? Because you already learned the lessons from the first one. Teachable. Hey, we got this. We got it packed.
Yeah.
We know exactly
what we
need.
The first one survived. We did it. That's how we celebrate. She made it. If she made it, then everyone else can.
Right.
I would say, all right, let's send. We were talking about shows earlier.
Yeah.
It's kind of like season 1, season 2 of our favorite show.
Okay.
Season 1 being my first daughter, Mariana. She's going to be 7 soon.
Wow.
And it's a different story now. We're not treating her as the baby. Daniela right now is going to be 2 come on October. And she's still little, and she's still going through her baby phase. While the other one's already, trying to be an adult. She was raised different. The first kid is always kind of raised around adults. She can't be a kid as much as our second daughter. Second daughter is just being a kid at every moment. She doesn't have to, try to appeal to the adults around her.
Right.
So that's like, so it's 2 different little bodies we have to focus on. And as time goes on, man, the girls are going to grow up. They're going to have their own lives. They're going to have their own families. Things are going to happen. And it's just, we're going to have to adjust the cogs every moment that we can. So it was just thinking about, they taught me to think more about, the future for someone else rather than just myself and shut all down, Yeah. And a lot of things, patience, flexibility, knowing that, they're not going to stick to any routine unless you make it concrete, right? Self-care.
I grew up with Jamaican parents. We adjusted some cogs. It was called the belt.
Yeah, we had a chancleta. We had the chancleta. Yeah.
Yes.
Think about Captain America wheeling his shield. My mom had the chancleta. And for some reason, it was like a boomerang. It'd come back to her hand. She goes, "You want more?" I'm like, no, I'm fine. I got the message. Thank you. Communication. We didn't have a lot of communication growing up. So that's something that my mom taught me. Communicate with your kids. Don't.
Captain Chancleta.
She's Captain Latin America.
Yes.
And she was good with that, man.
Woo.
She was fast.
Oh, sorry.
And she would run when she would, try to lay the hammer down, another reference to superheroes. She would chase me because I knew I messed up on something, right? Either I talked back when I wasn't supposed to. I wasn't the most perfect kid, but I had questions and she didn't really have an answer. Because also growing up, there was a little bit of a language barrier. Because I would try to communicate in English growing up here in the States, and she would communicate with Spanish because she grew up in Colombia. Yeah. And to this day, she really doesn't know any English. You can't talk bad in front of her in English because she'll right away turn your way and go, I heard that. It would happen sometimes with my brothers.
Oh, wow.
We try to do code, quote unquote code. Let's talk in code. Let's talk in English. Well, mom won't hear us. Until one day that code was broken. I was like, oh, you're like a Navajo. You broke the code. No, now we have to talk in different code.
Wow.
So again, bringing it back, communication. That was another thing that my daughters taught me. Communicate. Don't just go straight for the belt. Or sometimes you might need it, but there might be. Usually, what happened with me with the belt would be I would go and ask mom why. That's when it turned sour. What do you mean why? It would come flying my way. So communication, my daughters taught me. Now I'm remembering now another thing. My second grade teacher, Mrs. Ibanez. Ooh,
you remember her name?
I'll never forget her name.
Oh wow.
Let me see. This was one day my mom was picking me up from school.
Yeah, and
this wasn't a parent-teacher conference or it wasn't in front of the auditorium, in front of the, the whole school. This was just a one-on-one, a quick one-on-one. And the one thing that stuck with my mom, and my mom shared this with me recently when I went to, just have a quick coffee with her. And she's like, you know what, your teacher, because, the way we brought it up was my daughter's about to go into first grade. So we were just kind of reminiscing, about some of the stuff. And she's like, yeah, we had this conversation with your teacher, Mrs. Ibanez. I'm like, yeah, I remember Mrs. Ibanez. She goes, you know what she told me? She goes, stick to Spanish at home. We'll teach them English here.
Wow.
So talk to them all you can in Spanish at home. So that way Spanish doesn't leave, his just doesn't leave his language.
To balance.
Yeah. Just so he doesn't forget the language. Right.
That's good.
And to this day, it still resonates. And again, this was a conversation I just recently had with my mom. Now, I've worked in radio for, a good, almost going to be about 19 years, about 20 years. Yeah, coming up. Wow. And I started out in a English radio station. It wasn't a Spanish radio station then, but I wasn't on air. I wasn't on the microphone. I wasn't doing any production. It was just me filing papers, getting some community service hours in, but also getting a feel for what a radio station's like.
Sure.
I guess paperwork is still being in the building. Now, I then transferred to another radio station that was all in Spanish. And that's where I first got my gig on air.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, look, we opening up a slot. We need you to, talk with the co-host, but it's all in Spanish.
Oh, wow.
And where did that confidence come from? Well, Mrs. Ibanez instilled that confidence in me a long time ago. Wow. Because I can also express myself in Spanish and not leave any detail out.
Oh, man.
And you know what? That actually opened the doors. You're at Food for the Poor.
Oh, of course. I mean, imagine.
Right?
You're here at Food for the Poor because we had an opening and an opportunity to have a Spanish-speaking, bilingual fundraiser on the radio. We didn't have one until you showed up on our doorstep, and it's like, boom, we've got to I think we've got to do a direct deposit part of your check, go to Mrs. Ibanez's retirement account or something. I don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, she's a little retired right now. She might need it. But
seriously, all that time ago set you up for today. Amazing.
Teachers being teachers, right? And she was a second grade teacher. She didn't really need to go out and tell my mom anything. She just could have kept, teaching her class in English, or I can't remember. She wasn't just one subject. This is elementary school, by the way. So again, it was multiple subjects with the same teacher, but English was one of hers. And because of her, I think I am very, very grateful. One, and two, I'm here. Yes.
That's awesome.
That's a big teacher right there. That's the best teacher I've had so far.
Hey, if anybody in our audience listening to this podcast knows Mrs. Ibanez, please do me a favor. Can you go to foodforthepoor.org/podcast, click the sign up for the Best Bite, and let us know where you have found or forward Miss Ibanez this podcast, because we got to hear from her, right?
Bowman Foster Ash. That was my elementary school. This is Kendall.
Okay.
This is South Miami.
Oh, man.
And she just retired in 2020, so she's been touching lives from here and since then.
What was the mascot?
Oh, for Bowman Foster Ash?
Yeah.
Sebastian the Ibis.
U.
From the U.
Nice.
It was already instilled in me before I even knew I was a fan.
You were a cane
I
from Miss Ibanez.
I loved it. I was a cane because of that. Awesome. And yes, it instilled a confianza in me. Trust the process. Yeah. Trust your past. And I still, to this day, speak to my daughters in Spanish, speak to my wife in Spanish. Obviously, I got to talk to my parents in Spanish. And any chance I get it, even with my own coworkers, I try to sneak in a little bit of Espanol once in a while. My Duolingo right now, we're at silver. Because I go for the hard ones.
Not bad.
I'm not bad for actual person who speaks Spanish. I don't want to say gold and you go, ugh.
I'm impressed.
Oh, wow.
I think I'm at aluminum foil. Don't tell my wife.
I'm at tinsel. What color?
Copper. What could be less than aluminum foil? You
Copper.
hit the nail on the head. Wow. Wow. Thanks, Mrs. Ibanez. Hispanic Group. Hispanic Group is an advertising agency focused in the U.S. Hispanic market that specializes in customized media solutions for businesses.
It sure does, desde estrategias de redes sociales hasta publicidad en medios tradicionales. Ofrecen soluciones personalizadas y creativas adaptadas para alcanzar sus objetivos de marketing, all tailored to diverse and rapidly growing segments of the Hispanic population across 42 Hispanic markets in the U.S. and Latin America, huh?
Wow, you get all the great lines.
Hey.
But they use their cultural expertise to create strategies to deliver efficient results. Hispanic Group!
Lleva tu marca al corazón de la comunidad hispana. Take your brand to the heart of the Hispanic community. Hispanic Group.
Their expertise lies in reaching the Hispanic market, leveraging its rich multiculturalism. Hispanic Group combines innovation, cultural insight, and strategic collaboration to drive what? Tangible results for their clients.
I agree with everything you just said.
Now, for more information, you can visit their website. Guess where? HispanicGroup.net.
Okay.
That's HispanicGroup.net, or
I'll say it in Spanish. HispanicGroup.net.
You know, growing up, I had some teachers. You know, who was my teacher? We're talking in this episode of who is your teacher, right? And I think growing up in itself and what I went through, what I experienced, living with my dad, a single parent, right? It was my teacher of sorts. You know, I'm 12 years old and single parent, you know, raising me by himself. Dad had 2 and 3 jobs. You know, he'd sell cars during the day. He'd come off that job and work for a tire shop, installing tires at night. On the weekends, deliver newspapers. Yeah. I mean, like literally go from like midnight until 6 a.m. delivering newspapers. And it still wasn't enough to make ends meet. We struggled a lot. You know, I remember going to school. I had no ambition, no drive at all.
Nothing.
You know, no, not at all. Not at all. I think I only went to school. I only got good grades because I was afraid I would bring home a bad report card and I'd catch it.
What grade was it? What did it start at?
I guess it'd be like
middle school?
No, it'd be like maybe, middle school. Okay, yes, middle school. 6th grade. Let's just say 6th
beginning
grade.
of high school?
Yeah, because my parents split up fairly early in life and I'm here.
12 years old. Yeah, so 12. Yeah, you're
right?
in 6th, 7th grade.
And we struggled financially. Dad struggled to, quite frankly, keep the electricity on, keep the water running.
He was going through his own teachers.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's, I mean, you couldn't have said it better. I mean, I remember vividly, I think it was about a span of a few months, right? Where we went without electricity, without running water in the house. I would hop the fence of the abandoned house next door only to get from a standing pipe some water so I could flush the toilet, so I could wash my face.
Yeah.
Whatever I needed it for, right?
And please tell me this was like at least in December
Oh, I wish.
Or like the winter days, at least you didn't have to crank the air.
No, it was worse. It's South Florida. It's the
Oh.
end of the summer, beginning of
Oh,
the school
no.
year, right? And it's super hot. Open all the windows up and hope you
Nah,
catch a breeze.
That's not
I remember running home from the bus stop at the end of a school day and running home because I had to get there before the sun went down so that I could do my homework. There was no lights. Yeah, I do my math, I do my English assignment, whatever.
1800s with a candle.
Yeah.
No.
And watch this. And even with that, I only had a limited supply of candles, so you couldn't burn that candle down because you really needed it. Yeah, that was the thing.
Okay.
But I learned something. I think that was my teacher. I learned that later on in life because from a young age, I was taught and equipped by my dad how to care for a home. I mean, listen, we didn't have electricity. We didn't have running water, but he had one of those little vacuums that you didn't have to plug in. It was like a manual vacuum.
Okay, yes, I've seen those.
I'm not kidding you.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
I would vacuum the carpet. I would dust. I
Yeah.
would clean whatever. I mean, no
You still
electricity, no
take
lights,
care.
but I still took care
Well,
of
you still took care
our
yeah, yeah,
house,
right,
right?
right,
You know, he took me to the laundromat. You know, and I'd do laundry and fold laundry. And I remember going to the laundromat. Oh gosh, I would go to the laundromat, and I remember it was so cold in there, and it was like, oh, it feels so good.
Oh,
It
that's
feels
right.
so good in
yeah.
this laundromat because they got AC,
Mhm.
even with the dryers running. It was like so cool. But my father taught me the value of hard work at a young age because I saw it. Remember, I told you, more is caught than taught.
Mhm.
I saw that in him. And I started to learn that school was a real privilege. I started to understand that, I didn't have to be there, but I got to be there. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
a lot.
I earned every grade. I worked really hard. I started to apply myself, and I really earned every grade. Nothing came easy.
And
Let's just
did
put
it
that
did
way.
it take a while for that to turn?
Yeah.
Because you said back once again, it was 12 years old.
Yeah.
6th grade, 7th grade. So was it the transition finally hit when you hit high school? When the stakes get a little higher,
I think so.
things get a little bit for your future more important?
Yeah, I think it did. I think it took a couple years to really stop hemming and hawing as a kid. Woe is me, and all the embarrassing things that we used to go through. And, as a kid,
I
you don't
know, Dad.
Oh, yeah. No.
A lot of I know, Dad.
You see that on I saw that on TV. That did not happen in our house.
Jacobs!
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yes, exactly. But it humbled me. Lights off, electricity off. It humbled me. I never established myself, or I never became
That's
high
kind of
maintenance.
hard, man. I mean, any friends go to your house?
No. Oh no, I was a latchkey kid, right? You come home, you lock
That's
the
it.
door. Only person that was allowed through that door when they knocked was Dad, or somebody Dad told me was coming
Yeah.
to pick me up or take me somewhere.
And this secret was kept,
Yeah.
right? Very, very tight to
Oh yeah.
both of you guys because
Oh yeah. No one in the family knew.
no.
Not even my mom. They were divorced.
Wow.
And not even my mom knew about it. I mean, it was like, and I didn't tell anybody. I didn't go to school until those guidance counselors. I mean, I protected my dad, but
Yeah. Of course, right? Because it would come. Oh no, that would
Yes.
be even worse, right? It'd come after your dad and
imagine.
accuse him of things that is not true.
And he worked hard, and I learned humility. I learned how to
Be
just-
humble,
Yeah, I think so.
appreciative.
And you can ask my wife. I'm not high maintenance. I mean,
No.
don't laugh. It's true. It's true.
Yeah, okay.
But I have to say though, it prepared me for when I came here.
Mhm.
And so one of the greatest teachers coming here to work at Food for the Poor came through a mission trip to Haiti. I was here a few years, and I went to this remote community in Haiti called La Fosse. Now, interesting. We go to all these cities and all these communities and different places I've traveled, right? But this one was very striking because it took us hours to get to the community, or at least to the main road, where that community, you had another 30 to 45-minute drive
yeah,
into La Fosse. Then when we get there,
La Fosse. Is that's Creole, right?
that's okay.
Okay, because my Creole right now is not very good looking. Does it mean something? It's probably like the God's leap,
You ready?
or the touches of heaven. Because Colombia, sometimes they'll do something like that, right? Like El Salto del Ángel.
Yeah.
It's a big waterfall, very nice. It's
I wish. It actually means, in Creole, it translates the pit. And
Ooh.
even and that was when I looked it
Pit.
up, La Fosse. I looked it up and it says the pit. But
Oh.
you know what the translator called it and what all the people
Mhm.
referred to it as? The grave. It's where these
Oh, no.
communities of people after the 2010 earthquake, they were displaced out of Port-au-Prince or nearby areas that were just completely destroyed. And they went to this community, and it was when you go there and you saw what I saw, you saw the condition of the homes, you saw how the families were living, you understood why they
That
called it
was
La Fosse,
the pit, the grave. Oh.
so we go there
Okay.
and we're looking for the community leader. We look around, of course,
Mhm.
we knock on the door where they're supposed to be. They're not there.
And this is what, like the representative of the group. This is the one that speaks for everybody, or this is just like
Yeah.
a guiding person.
Yeah, it's actually a person in the community that
Mhm.
speaks on behalf of all the families that
Oh,
need
okay.
help, need
Okay.
homes, need food, need clean water,
Wow.
need everything. And they were going to take us
Just
to visit families
a
in other
governing
communities.
body there that helps. Okay.
I guess somewhat,
Yeah,
right? But at
somebody.
least you have someone advocating on your behalf, but lives in the community, not some
Right.
like some outsider. They weren't there. So we're like, what are we going to do? We just traveled hours to get here. We just traveled 45 minutes from the main road to get here.
All right, get back in the car.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere. We're going to figure this out.
Oh, no.
So I remember looking down, the group of us, we kind of looked down a little ways down this dirt road and we saw this, I guess we could call it a canal, if you will. You know, it was just a body of water. I saw some people kind of milling about over there. And I said, well, let's go over there. Let's see what's going on over there. We go there and we saw this, I can't describe it other than we walk upon this, and it's very small, right? It's
Mhm.
not very long. It's not like this river or the intercoastal waterways like we have here in South Florida. It's this small, murky, muddy canal with this water with green algae, which means it's not moving. There's
Yeah.
no life in it. But I saw on one end, here is a guy washing his motorcycle, right? Literally like, pouring the water from the canal onto his motorcycle. He was one of those drivers, those tap drivers,
Okay,
like
yeah.
little escort.
Taxi
Taxi.
motorcycle.
There you
Okay.
go. You get on, you tap it, and he goes.
Wow.
Um,
And then that water would then return back to
right back
like
in.
a,
On the other side of that is a bunch of ladies that were doing laundry. They were cleaning their clothes, dirty, soapy water in that same.
okay, so everybody's using it to cleaning purposes.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
Then my eyes found this muddy embankment with, I guess you would call it clear-ish water. I mean, it's not clear, it's not clean, but it's better than what I saw on either end. And there's this little girl, 12 years old, little girl named Choveline. She's got this huge bucket, kind of like those big 5-gallon buckets that you put paint in or you get at the store to,
Mhm.
clean debris on a construction site. And she's siphoning that water off the top carefully. And then in this hot August sun in Haiti, we followed her about a quarter, almost half a mile
Mm.
back to her home. Now, this home, this home was made of rotten metal, rusted wood. Her mom, when she closed the door, used this cloth, if you will, to tie it together. That was her lock of the door. We walked from a hot outside into her home to look around, and it was sweltering. And so I thought to myself, there is this girl, this 12-year-old girl, who's literally walking back to this decrepit home. And it reminded me of like one of these backyard sheds, all right?
Yeah.
But it was worse. It looked like I could tip it over with my finger. In fact, you know what? Listen to this. I actually wrote, I wanted to write something just so that I wouldn't forget
Mhm.
what happened that day. I wrote, Choveline, this 12-year-old girl I met in La Fosse, Haiti, spends hours a day in knee-deep in muddy, murky water instead of going to school and playing with friends. At least at 12 years old, I had some friends. I had school to go to, even in my situation.
Right.
This young girl with no shoes fills her 5-gallon bucket container with the same murky green water that slowly flows at the end of this dirt road. Water used by the community to wash clothes, to bathe, and many animals even relieve themselves. That was another thing I saw there. And at the same time, that water Choveline would be drinking in a matter of hours.
Was Choveline like only child?
She-
For the time you were there, you only saw a mom and daughter.
No, she had a little sister, but a little sister
Oh.
was too small. She couldn't bear the weight of this heavy
No,
water.
of course not.
So
But the little
Choveline,
sister's drinking that water too.
yes. And so we start to talk to Choveline, and I ask her. I laughed to myself because I remember it was very new to Food for the Poor at the time, right?
Okay.
And I asked this question I think it was one of those, remember that commercial, Want to Get Away?
Mhm.
You know, you like embarrassing moments
Right.
of your career, and it came out just naturally. And I said, "What does the water taste like?" And of course, before I realized what I had said, and before I could pull it back or stop the translator, she'd already translated to Choveline, and I got the answer of my life. You know what she said?
Not that bad.
I wish.
Something.
She said, "It tastes like mud."
Hmm.
And I could feel it going down when I drink.
So no filters, no
No.
bleach tablets available.
No.
No way of at least filtering some of the sediment out. It's
Ye-
just
If you had money, you could buy these bleach tablets.
yeah.
If you had money.
Yeah.
I very big if, right? And so that was one of my teachers. Probably the greatest lesson I've ever learned in all my years here traveling and working at Food for the Poor. This girl, this 12-year-old girl, taught me the lesson of my adult life, seeing poverty on a whole nother level, seeing hardships in life on a whole nother level. And I noticed she never complained.
Yeah.
She never said no to her mom when her mom ran out of water and she had to go back to that canal. But here, like the famous broadcaster Paul Harvey used to say, is the rest of the story.
There's some parallels there, man.
No, it was,
I'm feeling a lot of parallel there.
okay. So before I tell you
You
the
know?
rest of the story, you're absolutely right, because I'm standing there awestruck because I'm remembering 12-year-old me
Yeah.
looking at 12-year-old Choveline, and I remember how I felt that it was hard and it was difficult and it was tough, and I didn't want to go another day because it was just months without electricity. She had no electricity. I don't even dare say at 12 years old she ever lived with any electricity or running water for that matter.
That's how remote they
Yeah.
lived out.
That's right. That was my greatest teacher here in my experience here at Food for the Poor since or before that. But here's the rest of the story. It's a year later now. We're back in Haiti
Okay.
around the same time of the year. So it literally is almost exactly a year later. And I remember we were going back to the community because we heard they built some homes. So like, well, let's go back. Now the whole team wants to see the homes. You know what I want to see?
Choveline.
That's it. That's the only thing on my mind is to see Choveline.
Choveline.
We pull up and there's rows and rows and rows of Food for the Poor homes. Beautiful, bright colored homes, solid roof, locking doors, concrete walls, foundation. And next to the very first home, I look and there is a water purification unit
Great.
pumping out 10,000 gallons of safe, clean water, potable, clean water for the entire community.
No more need for that canal.
At all.
That canal dried up and nobody can care less.
Imagine.
Good.
Out walks from the very first home next to the water purification unit. Guess who? I'll give you 3 guesses. The first 2 don't count.
If I've been listening for the last couple minutes, Choveline.
Choveline.
Oh, good.
But here's the best part about that whole thing. When she walks out of the house, I recognize this little girl walking through this door, but I didn't recognize her, right? In 1 year, with a clean water, with a home, with safety, with everything that she needed, this little girl was completely transformed. I almost didn't recognize her. I had to literally take out old photos because I had the photos on my camera roll on my phone, right? And look, I was like, that's her. And I told everybody, there's Choveline. Because we were going to walk in the community and go look and meet some of the families. And then she walks out the very first house. I mean, the irony in that, right?
Yeah.
She's living the very first house next to the water purification unit. What I saw transformed my heart in ways unimaginable. All of us. I mean, the whole crew, because we all met her the year before. And we say to ourselves, moments like this, education opportunities like this, to be educated, to have your teacher be a life lesson, to be a life lived out before you, it can be transformative and it can take so many different shapes, right? But the key is, what do you do with it?
Yeah, that's
right?
that's the actual best part of being a teacher, when whatever you said or whatever message you're trying to relay actually gets put into action.
Right.
Because what would be a teacher if nobody listens?
Exactly.
What would be a teacher if all those lessons taught have just been into thin air and nothing?
Exactly. Who and what comes into your life and the lessons they bring more valuable than gold, number one. We learn, and what I learned that day is I learned a resilience like I've never seen before. Like, I thought I had some toughness in my own hard upbringing, but I saw in that situation a resilience like never before. And then, of course, there's children, there's mothers, there's families. They daily look to the future. And what I admire most, whether it's the educational programs that help women become functioning truck drivers in Honduras and have a amazing career at it, or microtunnel farmers that in Guatemala, they own the land, they own the food, they sell it at a fair market price, and they can take care of their families. Or even at-risk youth in Jamaica who go to band camp and they're taken out of their very poor and very dangerous communities where they live, learn a skill, keep that instrument, and then begin to dream for the future. It tells me something so important, and that is our struggles are intended to teach us, to not take us down. Our struggles are intended to teach us, but not take us down. I think that is absolutely phenomenal when we take the lessons, we take the situations, we look at this and say, who's my teacher?
Yeah.
And learn from that.
And the timing on some of those things.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've been in certain situations where something happens with my daughter, or just fixing the doorknob on something, or something that just needs fixing.
Yeah.
And I've had moments where it's like somebody's talking to you and you're like, no, you're doing that wrong. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm doing this wrong? I've done this countless times. And it's that one moment where that person's not there anymore. I am by myself. And it's that aha moment. Yeah. That's what they were talking about. I've been doing this wrong this whole time. I didn't even know. Thinking, I taught myself how to do this. Piano. I know how to play the piano, but I don't know how to play the piano with both hands, or I just do it the most awkward way possible, but I get it done.
Yeah.
But I was never taught the right way, and thinking, all right, now I'm doing it right. I'm playing the song. Who cares if I color outside the lines? This is my thing.
That's good.
But then once I actually took lessons, they're like, no, you kind of have to forget everything you've learned and try this again. Let's color within the lines first, and then color outside the lines, whatever you want, and then you can call it art. And it's timing too, man. It's timing where my mom, my dad, a friend, a teacher said something back in 1993, and now it's 2024, and it's hitting.
Wow.
It's making sense now. Yeah. It's falling in place, like if it was just waiting just to be placed there.
What I don't want to insult anybody, but it's like youth is wasted on the young. I don't mean to be derogatory, but I mean like,
and it's wasted on because it's moments. I don't want to interrupt you, but it's just those moments because I remember, and still I deal with teens right away. My nieces are in that stage, and it's like, oh, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that response. Oh, look, you need to do this so that way you can get this outcome. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
How do you know? It took me all my 38 years of my life to figure that out. How do you know in your first 12?
Right.
I don't think so.
Right.
Because your first 6 you're still a kid, and this other 6 you're still learning not to be a kid. So it's not wasted on the youth. It's just it takes time. Timing is all.
Who's your teacher? So as every episode ends, we always end on a positive note. Wow.
I went opera.
You
went opera.
Was that like that's not Pavarotti, because Pavarotti's kind of
I'm more
high,
like
right?
Placido Domingo.
Nice.
Call me Sábado Domingo.
Okay. All right. Positive note. Let's hear our positive note. You want to get?
What? You want to call me Salvador Domingo?
No, Salvador Domingo.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not Pavarotti. Pavarotti.
What's our positive note?
Positive note
Salvador.
today. I am Salvador Domingo, not Placido Domingo.
Okay.
This comes from Jaime Escalante. If you don't know the name, and
yeah.
you can probably put together with the movie Stand and Deliver.
Awesome movie.
Edward James Olmos. That's like the first stint of Edward James Olmos that I came across. Great movie.
Yep.
It takes place in an inner city school. The kids aren't there to really learn.
Yeah.
They don't even trust themselves to get out of high school, and it takes this teacher, and it's a real teacher. This is not just a Hollywood-made teacher.
And they've never been given an opportunity to learn, right? Until someone believes
This is what was it? East Los Angeles. So
Yes.
East Los Angeles in the 80s, early 90s.
Right. Pretty tough.
Yeah, a tough place. So once again, so it's Jaime Escalante. This is from the real Jaime Escalante was a highly influential educator known for his work with the students from Garfield High. Yeah. And so this subject is from, once again, the 1988 coming of age movie Stand and Deliver. And he says, "You are going to work harder than you'd ever worked anywhere else. And the only thing I ask from you is ganas."
Ganas.
Desire.
Ooh, I like that.
Desire. So he goes, "You're going to work harder here than you've ever worked anywhere else. And the only thing I ask from you is ganas." And then he points at one of the kids. He goes, "And a haircut." That was my favorite part. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, and a haircut. Ah, you got me. Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Plate. We love having you here.
Keep up with us on Instagram and TikTok at beyondtheplate.podcast.
And if you enjoy the show, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and give our videos a like. Just search Food for the Poor Beyond the Plate.
Your support means the world to us.
All right, folks. We'll see you on the next Beyond the Plate episode.
I'm waving.